Hi, this is Mato. In this video, I will show the game between Magnus Carlsen and Teimour Radjabov. This is the game from round 7 of the Candidates tournament that was played in London in 2013. In this game, Magnus Carlsen had white pieces and he started with e4. Radjabov played c5, Sicilian defense, knight to f3, knight to c6. d4 is the most popular move in this position. Carlsen played bishop to b5, e6. Castling is the most popular move in this position. Carlsen captured the knight on c6, doubling the pawns, and Radjabov recaptured with b pawn towards the center. D takes on c6 is less popular. Could be due to bad results for black. So we have b takes on c6. It is white to move. d3 is the most popular move. Second most popular move is castling. Carlsen played b3. That is the move that Anand played against Gelfand in 2012 World Chess Championship match. Gelfand responded with e5 and we had this continuation. Anand captured the pawn with knight, queen to e7, bishop to b2, d6, knight to c4, d5, knight to e3, d4, and the game ended in a draw. In the second game, instead of bishop to b2, Anand played d4 and he won the game. But it's not just because of d4 pawn push. Let's go back to our game. Radjabov played d6. Carlsen castled kingside. It is black to move. How should black continue? Well, e5 is a very popular move in this position. Black also plays bishop to e7, sometimes knight to f6, sometimes d5, and sometimes bishop to a6. And what did Radjabov play in this position? None of these moves. He played knight to e7. Could this be that this move was a little surprised by Radjabov? It is white to move. Perhaps d4 is a move you could expect from white in this position. Carlsen played e5 and Radjabov continued with knight to g6. What happens if pawn takes pawn on e5? Well, white can continue in a few different ways, like quiet continuation is bishop to b2 or knight to c3. What about knight takes on e5? Well, black can continue with knight to f5, but also with this move, queen to d4, forking the knight and the rook on a1. Then we would have this continuation, perhaps knight to c4, queen takes rook, bishop to b2 attacking the queen. This is all forced now. Knight to c3 attacking the queen, queen to a6, knight to d6 check, king to d7, knight takes on f7 attacking the rook. White is a piece down, but black king may not be safe. This would be kind of a position that Tal would like to play as white. But let's go back to our game. We have knight to g6, pawn takes pawn on d6, bishop takes on d6, knight to c3, e5, clearing the path for light squared bishop, although now dark squared bishop is a bad bishop. Rook to e1. Radjabov castled kingside. d3. f5. Since black has a structural damage on the queen side, he wants to fight on the king side. And what white wants to do, to win the pawn on c5, so this is the first step. c5 pawn looks like an easy target. Knight to a4 is coming. Radjabov continued with bishop to e6. Knight to a4, two attackers, one defender. Queen to e7, defending the pawn. c4, cementing c5 pawn. But now, white pawn on d3 is a backward pawn. Rook from a to d8, eyeing white's backward pawn. Queen to e2, bishop to c8, queen to e3, attacking c5 pawn third time. But Radjabov has horses for courses. f4, and there is no time to capture the pawn. Queen to e4, eyeing the pawn on c6. And how would you continue now if you had the black pieces? Would you defend with the bishop to b7, bishop to d7, or would you play something else? Radjabov played king to h8. He said to white, go ahead, make my day. This is a little trap that could work in a blitz game. Rook from a to d1 was the move played by Carlsen. But what happens if queen takes on c6? We would have this continuation. Bishop to b7 attacking the queen. Queen to b5, and the queen is offside now. Bishop takes knight. Pawn takes bishop. Knight to h4. And black is winning. Okay, so in the game we have rook from a to d1. Bishop to g4, pinning the knight. There is no time to capture the pawn. If queen takes on c6, then knight to h4. And what now? If knight takes knight, bishop takes rook. This is not the variation that white would like to play. So we have rook to d2 on pinning. It is black to move. Rook to c8 comes to mind, defending the pawn. Radjabov captured the knight. With bishop, queen takes bishop. Knight to h4 attacking the queen. And how should white continue? What would you play? Queen to g4. Queen takes on c6. Queen to e4. It looks like that queen to g4 is the best move. And queen takes on c6 will be the worst. Because of this move. f3. There is no time to capture the pawn. Because then knight takes is winning. And also queen to g5 is also winning. White would have to continue g3. Then queen to e6, queen is heading for h3. If king to h1, queen to h3, rook to g1, perhaps this is not the position that Carlsen would like to have. So taking the pawn is out of question. Queen to e4 was played. f3, g3, queen to e6 doesn't work now, because queen takes knight. Radjabov played knight to g2, attacking the rook. And guess what? Carlsen didn't move the rook. That's a bad sign for white. Knight to c3. Most people would capture the rook now. Knight takes on e1. Radjabov played queen to e6. Queen is heading for h3 square. How should white continue? What would happen if white wanted to save the rook? For example, rook to c1. We would have this continuation then. Queen to h3. Knight to d1. And one line goes like this. Rook to f5. Rook may be heading for h5. If knight to e3, knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, check, rook takes on f2, rook takes rook, and after king takes on f2, then queen takes pawn on h2, check, king to e1, rook to f8, and black would be winning. In the game we have rook to e3, attacking the pawn on f3, and now Radjabov captured the rook. Pawn takes knight. It is black to move. How should black continue? Radjabov played f2 check. Rook takes pawn. Rook takes rook. King takes rook. Check. King to e2. Queen to h3. Threat is queen takes pawn or queen to f1 check. Queen to h1 defending. Bishop to e7. Knight to e4. Check. King to d2. Queen to h3, king to e2, h5, bishop to b2, attacking the pawn on e5. How should black defend the pawn? Radjabov played queen to g4 check, and after king to d2, queen to h3. There is no time to capture the pawn. This would be the mistake of epic proportions. Then black would continue with rook to f1, winning the game. Perhaps after knight to f2, rook takes knight is winning, and so is rook takes queen. And after knight takes queen, rook takes pawn check, and after king to c3, rook takes knight, and black is winning. So in this position, Carlsen played king defending f1 square. Queen to g4 check. King to d2. Queen to h3. And the draw was agreed. Let's go back to move number 6. In this position, Radjabov played knight to e7. Perhaps this move will be more popular from now on. And now let's go to move number 25. This was the critical position. Radjabov played f2. Radjabov had the courage and the fighting spirit, but patience was required in this position. Bishop to e7, and building up the position, and only then to push the pawn to f2. Carlsen was lucky to draw this game. And what do you think of this game? I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I wish you good luck with your chess, and bye for now.